Hello, I hope you're well. So, I figured that I would do an unboxing video of the Kobo Libra Colour, which I've just collected today because it just released today. And currently we're at the stage of just setting it up after getting it out of the box. I've connected it to Wi-Fi. It's probably now going to complain, and I'm just going to put it to the side so that my personal details aren't revealed. And I'm actually going to go to the website because it wants me to log in and activate. So if you like keyboard clicking sounds, this one's for you. Let's have a look. So it wants that code. And I've done the code wrong. How have I done the code wrong? Oh, it's that code instead. Wow, this website's not particularly effective. There we go. Okay. Alright, now it wants me to sign in. I guess for those of you that like keyboard tapping, this is probably the best part of the video. Okay, so the funny thing about this is now that I have just registered it through Kobo, I don't have many books that are actually from the Kobo store. And what I mean by that is I get most of my books elsewhere and then I sideload them. And so as you can now see, the majority of my books are going to be Star Trek books that I've got through Kobo. And I will say at first glance, that color screen is very impressive. I think, oh yeah, that is very impressive. That's really great. I didn't quite know what to expect, in honesty. I'm just going to put the screen brightness down. So one thing I heard is that the screen brightness isn't that great, and I kind of am like, yeah, that's fine, no big deal. I'm not a fan of light. If you know me in person, you'll know that I quite like having ambience rather than overhead light, and at work I frequently go and turn all the office lights down, and people either applaud me or kind of look at me very disgruntled. But yeah, at first glance, that's really impressive. And so the screen is interesting because it has two different layers. It has a black and white layer, which operates at 300 ppi, and it has a color layer, which operates at 150 ppi. And I'm not entirely sure on the order, but one sits on top of the other, and it means that the resolution of one could be higher than the other without them basically impacting each other. Because some e-readers, what they'll do is they'll have it as one layer, and it means that the PPI is brought down for both, or brought up, but I don't think any of the technologies exist yet for the color screens that do that. So I'm just going to open up a book, and we'll see what's kind of going on here. At first glance, though, it's very solid. The Kobos had a habit for a long time of being very tacky, and the plastic was quite fiddly, and it just felt kind of like, oh, this isn't that great. It feels like a Kindle ripoff. But the last couple of years, they've really kind of put effort into the marketing and to the actual production quality of the unit to make it feel like it's better, and it has a nice weight to it, and the plastic is kind of like this matte finish. I don't know if I said already, but the Kobo Sage, which was the predecessor to this, and it's a larger unit, has a gloss screen, and that gloss screen and that unified screen means that you pick up fingerprints, which I absolutely hate. So, okay, let's try getting into a book. Now, one thing I often do is I really do kind of maintain my library like a bit of a garden. I use various software to like edit the books and to have them in like a unified font. I like change their coding so that they display in similar kind of ways. I remove their fonts so that they use the font that I want, because the publisher default is often a bit hit or miss, and I'm going to have to go and look at the font I'm currently using on my other e-reader to work out if it's the one that I want. I actually think I might be trying Rakuten Serif. Yeah, let's hazard a guess that it's that. We want justified. Font size is kind of fine, it's a little bit too big, but let's just trying to make this more like an actual page. That's kind of what I aim for, really. Just wanted to feel a bit more like an actual book. Oh, the buttons are nice. Oh, they're actually in reverse. I think you can change that. Hey, that's pretty good. I'm just gonna put that there so you can kind of get a better view of it. Yeah, that is, in honesty, quite impressive. I'm not sure what I expected, but I was a bit kind of worried about it, thinking, oh, I've heard the screen can get really dark, and oh, I think I've got an option on which is turning the page when I do that. But yeah, I heard the screen could be really dark, and I heard it had this kind of paper effect. But I can't see it at all. Maybe my eyes are just too poor, but I think it looks really nice. I think that is great. I think congratulations to it. I think it's become my new favorite e-reader. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, like I said, it's got kind of this matte kind of texture. You can see fingerprints on it, but it's really not the end of the world. Yeah, that's great. I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure what to say. I feel a bit stunned by it, to be honest, because I feel like I've been waiting probably 15 years for a colour e-reader. I remember the first one I got was a Kindle with a keyboard built into it, probably in, I don't know, 2010, 2011, when Kindles like first kind of like sprung. There was a 1 or 2 year process where Kindle suddenly became the new kind of big thing. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. I don't know if the technology is somehow just hit a point where it was, you know, the right moment in time or what it was, but either way, they suddenly kind of overnight became this big kind of thing, really. And so I was like, hey, I love reading. If I can transfer my reading into a Kindle, you know, and load it with all my books and that's fantastic. I've definitely read more because of it, but I also haven't read as much as I would have liked to. I'm one of those people that if you look at my Goodreads, which I'll link below, you know, I have probably, I don't know, like 200 books in my to-be read list, and, you know, I'll be lucky if I do 200 books in my life. I'm not somebody that does, excuse me, like 100 books a year. I'm just going to take a slurp on tea. As an Englishman, I think you'll know that tea is very rejuvenative for me. Yeah, wow, that is really impressive. Like I said, I'm slightly stunned by it. You know, it's easy to critique something you don't like, but in honesty, I'm really surprised. The color range is obviously somewhat muted, but that's to be expected with an e-reader. Like it's not a tablet, right? It's not its primary function, but the fact that it offers that is really quite amazing. Let's look around a bit. I never do these tour things, but let's do a tour just in case we're missing anything that's presumably obvious. Okay, so here we'll show you the basic concepts you'll need to get the most out of your e-reader. Okay, we know how to do searching, that's fine. See, the audiobooks portion is interesting because I understand that people might want to use an e-reader for audiobooks, but it seems kind of unnecessarily complicated to me, just because like the reaction time of the device doesn't really match like an iPhone or an Android. So if you're listening to an audiobook and you want to pause, if you pause it, it's going to take like 2 seconds for it to be like, yeah, I'm paused. It just feels like a potentially convoluted experience. So we're going to ignore audiobooks. Same with syncing. If you have Kobo books in your library and you have the Kobo app on your desktop or on a phone, you know, if you keep Wi-Fi on, it will synchronize where you are in the book with where you are on your phone and vice versa. For me, I think I said that, most of my books are actually from other places. I purchased them and da. And, I put them on manually rather than get them directly through Kobo. Similarly, yeah, because I do what's called side loading, which is where you kind of manually transfer the books over. I don't use Dropbox or Google Drive to store my library. But if you did have books in Dropbox or Google Drive, that's, great for you. I do use Overdrive. I think it's more commonly known as Libby nowadays, but it used to be Overdrive, and it effectively is an application that allows you to borrow from your local library's digital collection directly onto the device. I think this functions better in the US because there's just so many libraries. And it's an American application, so I think their first kind of customer was American libraries. But it does work well in Canada as well, and I do have Libby on my phone, where I kind of manage what books I'm trying to borrow and so on, and I'll pull them into here when I want to read them. So actually, it's a very good service, and the best part about it is you're keeping your local library kind of going. Oh, that's still down. Pocket. So Pocket is fascinating because I probably discovered Pocket, oh gosh, I don't know, I guess probably a decade ago now. And effectively what it allows you to do is save long form articles into an application called Pocket. And Pocket will parse the information and turn it into something that's more legible. So when you find an article online and you're like, yeah, that's really great, but it's complicated to read and there's stuff all over it and there's ads. Pocket kind of looks at it and says, let's get rid of everything that's superfluous, and it gives you back this clean, kind of almost book-like article. And because Kobo has it integrated, you can read those articles directly on the Kobo. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it does have color correction. I do use the color correction quite a bit. I do prefer it to go into a slightly ambery orange kind of tone towards the end of the day. I just find that it's more kind of soothing, really. I actually do it on my iPhone as well for my eyes, and people always kind of comment, they're like, wow, your screen's orange, and I'm like, yeah, it's so much nicer to look at. Good to know it's waterproof. I hate water, so lost on me, but good to know that it is waterproof. What's this, charging? Okay, cool. I think we know the bulk of this, which is good. It is compatible with a stylus if you did want to use it for note-taking. I have no real interest in doing so, but maybe one of those things one day that I'll try and be like, oh, this is better than my iPad. We are all done. Okay, let's have a little look at what I've got in my book collection on here. Like I said, I really have nothing on my Kobo account. I would have to manually transfer a lot over. So there's quite a bit of detail, I would say, in the covers, actually. Try and get that really close for you there, but it's surprisingly good quality. And what I mean by that is that if you look through the subreddit of Kobo, you would see lots of people kind of saying, oh, it looks fuzzy, or the colors aren't that great, but that looks amazing to me. I don't know, maybe I'm just a joyful person, but it just looks excellent. That is so good. I'm blown away, honestly. Anybody that knows me in person knows that I do not say that lightly. I am an eternal skeptic. So for me to look at it and actually be slightly kind of speechless is quite profound. Let's just see what other covers we've got. I'm just kind of wanting to look here, really, and just see what we've kind of got. Yeah, that quality is excellent. That is really, really good. It almost looks sharper, in honesty, than the Libra 2, and the Libra 2 looks pretty damn good anyway. I wonder why that is. I'm just going to play around with the settings a minute. So if let's do full brightness, and then as an example, this is the ambience kind of light, where you can give it that slightly orangey kind of tone, more of a sepia kind of effect. Sepia, one of them. That was the most kind of colourful cover, but that is just, in fact, let me just turn down the orange light a minute. Yeah, wow, that is really, really great. I'm not sure my phone's doing it justice, in honesty. Let's see if I can find a balance between the two. so it gets the contrast and the brightness correct on the lens. Oh. Yeah, wow, that is really, really excellent. Yeah, gosh. It's funny because I've probably purchased, I don't know, a good 15 e-readers in the last 10 years. And none of them have ever been quite right. There's always something that's not quite right about it. It's like you get one and the battery doesn't last long, but the rest of it's great, or you get one that's like battery lasts forever, but the screen looks rubbish, or there's never quite the right harmonious thing. But this is, yeah, frankly, really, really interesting. Like I said, the build quality of it is excellent. It's come a long way since the last couple of years. Man, that is, yeah. I feel a bit bad for anybody that came along to this expecting me to kind of tear it apart, because I really have no interest in doing so, to be honest. Okay, well, we're at about 15 minutes here, and I'm not sure this is particularly ASMR-y, because I got a bit too into this and a bit excited to the point that I kind of lost the, what is supposed to be the calm kind of tone, but hey, hopefully you maybe get the same sort of joy from this as I do. I'm now going to go play around with this and do some configuring. One thing I did want to try before I do that, though, is I want to look at dark mode, which I have a feeling isn't... Oh, it is here. Okay, cool. Okay, so that looks pretty good as well. That was one thing I was a bit concerned about, is whether or not it can manage the contrast properly of dark mode because of the screen. I assume it's going to look really dark like that, but that is nice. It's quick as well. That was one complaint I had about the Libra 2, is that, in fact, that's a good example of like how e-readers can get very close to perfection, but never quite there, because the Libra 2 looks really nice, the screen's really good, but it was just slow. Like, the processor they put in the unit really wasn't designed to accommodate what the unit is. Yeah, that's really nice. Wow, impressive. I may return at a later date with another video about how this is going, and maybe I'll give you a second tour, but for now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go and play around.